There is the famous teaching from Rabbi Ben Bagbag that the Torah should be turned and turned again, for everything lies within it. We literally turn our Torah week to week and return to the same texts year after year to see it with a new lens and to glean something different from it. As I was studying this week's text, I came across Serach, daughter of Asher. And after researching her, I was astounded both by the amount of midrashim about her and also astounded that I had never heard of her before. I WhatsApped a group of rabbinic colleagues asking if any of them had heard of Serach, wondering if perhaps my head had been stuck in the Torah midrashim sands, if you will, but they hadn't heard of her either. We know from our text that Serach went down to Egypt and was part of the multitude that was counted to enter into the land of Israel. These are the only clues we are given about the identity of Serach from our Torah. In the same way that the rabbis elucidated on the laws and the ethics of Judaism, they also created vast amounts of works around the characters of our Torah, who they were and how they engaged with one another and with God. The rabbis share with us many more details about her life and her uniqueness. She had a deep wisdom and was looked to in times of flux and crisis. There is one midrash that shares that Serach helped to comfort her grandfather, Jacob. When Joseph and his brothers had been reunited, they summoned Serach to play a song for Jacob, revealing to him that Joseph was still alive, so as to not alarm him. Serach sat in front of him and played a song on the lyre, sharing in the words of her song that Joseph had not died, but he was still alive. She continued to play for him as Joseph's brothers returned to Jacob. In this midrash, she has the wisdom and compassion to prepare Jacob to be reunited with his son. There is another midrash that explains that it is Serach in slavery in Egypt who identifies Moses as their future liberator. Joseph shared with Asher, who shared with Serach, a sign that would signal the Redeemer of the Israelites. According to this midrash, it was Serach who encouraged the Israelites to trust Moses and follow his lead. There are midrashim that link her with King David, and others that say that she never died, but was one who entered into the Garden of Eden while still alive. My favorite midrash about her is the one that Chloe and Sarah read this morning for the Haftarah of Rav Yohanan, explaining what the parted waters of the sea looked like. Serach interjects and explains that they looked like a reflective wall. Some have shared that Serach was here referring to the parted seas as functioning as a literal mirror. In looking at the water, they saw themselves. What a powerful image of an old woman who has been witness and participant of the journeys of her people, to share that in the moment of their liberation, what they saw reflected back to them was themselves. I found myself in a Serach, daughter of Asher wormhole, fascinated by this almost mystical woman of strength and wisdom, who somehow had an active role in the foundational history of our people, without being recognized as being one of the key players, without really being recognized at all in our Torah. In his article, Serach Bat Asher in Rabbinic Literature, Rabbi Moshe Rees reflects the fact that a few short appearances in genealogical lists could generate such a multifaceted woman in midrashic literature is truly remarkable. Serach Bat Asher uniquely represents the continuity from her grandfather in the patriarchal age to Moses and Joshua, the Davidic monarchy, and the Talmudic era. She is the bearer of an oral tradition and of secret knowledge, a power of life and redemption. What a powerful lesson. That community is the shared experience of individuals, though each individual is a world of stories and wisdom. It is a community that binds our boundless souls together for a shared purpose. But a community of strength is one that acknowledges that each of us has depth, complexity, and sacredness beyond measure. The reason so much is able to be found about Serach is that the rabbis themselves held questions about who she was. With or without realizing, the rabbis were making a statement by choosing to create so many stories about Serach. The statement that no member of a community should be nameless or storyless, that there is deep value and benefit of learning more about the people who surround you. In the Torah, Serach is only listed by name in the midst of a list of people, but there was so very much more to her. And that is part of the beauty of our sacred literature, that there are layers upon layers of creative interpretation of our Torah texts and the people found within it, always more to learn about the shoulders that we stand on. I struggled to think about what I would say in my sermon today. Though I hope to stay involved with the LJS and to lead services from time to time, this is the last sermon that I will give as a part of the rabbinic team here. The experience that I had of learning more about Serach very much reflects the experience that I have had here at the LJS. I vividly remember first leading services here 2 years ago and looking out into the kahal, the congregation, and spotting only 3 faces that looked familiar to me. With each week I spent as part of your community, I began to recognize more faces, and soon those faces turned into relationships, whether through meetings, life cycle events, one-on-one conversations, learning sessions, the relationships continued to deepen. What began as a community of faces became a community of people I learned from, laughed with, and journeyed through our sacred texts and the traditions of our people. It has been beyond humbling to be a part of this community, to be welcomed so warmly into this LJS family. Thank you for sharing in prayer and learning with me, for allowing me to be a part of your life cycle events, for sharing yourself and your story with me. My favorite part of being a rabbi, and really it's my favorite part of belonging to a Jewish community, is that it allows for me to regularly be in relationship with people who I otherwise might not have met. I have been so inspired, not only by the work that this community does, but by the individuals and the values that they share. I've seen selfless compassion through the countless volunteers who support other members of this community. I've heard stories of indescribable resilience as you have shared with me hurdles that you have crossed. I've been a witness to your courage when you have had the vulnerability to reach out openly in need of support. I have learned a great deal over the last 2 years, but the thing I will take with me that I will most treasure is the gift of witnessing you living the lives that you do, with the priorities that you have. I must apologize that I haven't been as present to many of you the last few months, as my work has been focused on maintaining Rimon online for our young families. I've missed being in regular community with those I've not seen during this unprecedented period. I miss sharing in Kiddush in person with you and seeing you come through the doors of the synagogues with stories to share about your weeks, ideas about upcoming programs, jokes to share. I look forward to being able to be together in person, and though I will no longer be a part of the rabbinic team, I do hope to stay involved with the LJS as a regular visitor. There are a few people and groups of people I want to call out by name. Thank you to the lay leadership of the community for your tireless work and for your support. Thank you to the staff team made up of skilled and passionate individuals who put so much effort and heart into building the LJS. Thank you to Debbie Penhay, who was wonderful to work with this past year and who cares deeply for Rimon and keeps it all organized. To the teachers and all the families of Rimon for having brought so much joy to me in the last year. Thank you to Rabbis Igor and Alex for your partnering, your willingness to take risks, for the lessons you have taught me through your example, and for your friendship. It has been a true delight to journey through these last 2 years with you. And finally, thank you to all of you who are part of the community for welcoming myself, George, and our 3 children into this synagogue family. My hope for you all is that you continue to lean into this community, whether you were raised within the LJS or whether this is your first service. It is worth it to lean into a community, to do the work, to find the stories behind the names, the depth of character behind the faces. My prayer is for health for you all, for the strength to be hopeful in times of sorrow, for relationships of laughter, love, and learning, for you to feel strengthened in spirit by those around you, to be God's partner in this imperfect but beautiful world, and for a continued sense of awe of the mystery that surrounds you. Shabbat shalom.